And this afternoon, we focus once more on the menace of illegal mining. The Christian Council of Ghana is calling for drastic measures to deal with Galamsey, as it is popularly called. The leadership of the community is this afternoon on a fact-finding mission assessing the level of destruction across various illegal mining sites in the Eastern region. Well, my colleague Michael Nieshale will be joining us live from the Eastern region with the latest shortly. But this latest move, as we understand, by the Christian Council is coming days after the airing of part 2 of Distraction for Gold.
So very active mining going on within the Patahon forest, close to Dompim in the western region. The river Nui has been blocked in two, and you can see the miners over there actively mining this resource. Is this legal?
It's illegal.
But you're doing it anyway?
Because of we don't have anything to do as our permanent job. That's why we are doing it. Because this very engine that we are using used to cause a harm to a lot of people. A time ago, it caused a harm to a lot of people. But because of we not getting anything doing as our job, that's why we are still doing this.
Here, we find a number of excavators clearing the riverbed in the middle of a large pool of residue and devastated forest cover. The people here will not tolerate our visit nor speak to us. But we are told that this irresponsible mining activity is sanctioned by a number of powerful people. The River Nui is no longer identifiable from the pits that fill this valley. These muddy-looking men and women represent unemployment, the struggles of youth, and the determination to do anything to survive, including participating in this illegal gold mining activity here.
There are no jobs in town. If you don't give us jobs, Galamsey is what we will continue to do.
That has been a very big major problem for me.
A worried chief of Dompim, Nana Nwapenyin IV, says he's helpless in the face of rising illegal mining in the area.
It is very, very serious. All the river bodies in the various places you are talking of. There were rivers that we could fetch and then drink those days. But for now, you saw some yourself. It is very bad. Before you get there, then they've bolted away and you'll not see them again. The next time you see them, you hear that they are at the Trebon forest. You dispatch men to that place, you go and then they are not there. So it is very hard to monitor their activities.
The River Nui and other highly polluted rivers and streams at Dompim link other water bodies like the Bonsa close to Takwa in the western region.
Because given the level of distraction the Christian Council is on at all, we'll get you some updates shortly. Meanwhile, in the last few days, there have been calls for a presidential order declaring a state of emergency in Galamsey-prone areas. But the Lands and Natural Resources Minister, Samuel Abujinapo, says such a move could have far-reaching consequences, hence the need to cautiously interrogate the matters. And we'll definitely hear from the minister shortly. Plus, my colleague Michael Nieshale, who will be giving us some updates. I want to bring in now Adib Sani, who's a security analyst. Adib, thank you for your time. Even before we start the conversation, I want you to listen to the sector minister, Abujinapo, speaking on why we should be giving a second thought to calls for a state of emergency.
Well, but if it's a state of emergency, I don't understand what the import is sometimes.
An order from the president asking that this is where we are.
So state of emergency where? Where?
In the mining areas.
Okay, so in the mining areas, you declare state of emergency. It means that people can be arrested and kept for more than 48 hours. It means that martial law would then operate in those places. It means that in communities where you have 10% mining, 90% of the community are engaged in their normal activities.
Not at a point where anything that can get us there.
I'm just raising the issue so that some of these calls to have to be interrogated properly, and then we can come to a more informed conclusions. I'm saying to you, 90% of some of these communities are not connected to illegal mining in any way, who are conducting their business in peace and law-abiding people. They then can be arrested and kept in custody for more than 48 hours. Martial law will then prevail in those places. Curfews will be put in those places. We need to consider all of that. And then you need to even go into the historical antecedents of state of emergencies. Under what circumstances have state of emergencies ever been invoked in our country and other parts of the world, and so on and so forth. These are matters. I'm not making a decision on this. I'm not taking a position on it. But I think you require a lot more interrogation before making that conclusion that a state of emergency be announced or being imposed in mining areas of our country. And always remember that 10 out of the 16 regions of Ghana, I think about 13 or so, are mining regions of Ghana. So you're going to impose a state of emergency on almost all of Ghana.
And that's the position of the minister on this. Adib, what's your thoughts on these matters?
Well, I don't think a state of emergency is the way to go. There are some legitimate concerns on the ground, and we need to go beyond trying to militarize our approach towards fighting Galamsey. We know what the real issues are, but it makes me wonder why we seem to be ignoring the elephant in the room. Yet we keep talking about state of emergency and, the deployment of security personnel to the area and all that. Meanwhile, the underlying issues are there. The fundamental issues that is pushing young people, especially into uncertainty, who have no option but to go into illegal mining is there. Why don't we address those fundamental issues?
Yeah, but you do agree that it's gone out of hands. The president has also indicated clearly that fighting this menace hasn't been easy. So why not go radical then? Just declare a state of emergency in areas which are very notorious, known for illegal mining activities, and then we make progress. So at least there's full military concentration in these areas. At least it will ward these miscreants off these areas, not so?
Okay, so let me say, without mincing words, that there is no military solution to anything. And I repeat, there is no military solution to anything. When we tried the military solution through Operation Bakan, Takuba, Accra Initiative, G5 Sahel, MINUSMA, Joint Task Force, and the rest on terrorism, what happened? The terrorists are rather gaining more ground. The terrorists are winning in Burkina Faso. We need to address the fundamental issues. And from day one, we failed to, and it is sad to say, it's been a monumental failure. Our fight against Galamsey has been a monumental failure. Let us call it for what it is, because we failed to address those issues. Now, what are those issues? I think that 99% of the solution to Galamsey fight is commitment, which we lacked. I mean, we can bring UN peacekeepers, we can bring all the soldiers on earth to the mining sites. Without commitment, it is almost impossible for us to be able to do anything, because we still have politicians engaged in it. We still have powerful people protecting those engaged in the illegal mining. You go to the mining site, you have people who are supposed to ensure that it doesn't happen, rather engaged in it. And a clear case in point is a documentary by Erastus Asare-Donkor. Okay, so what are we talking about here? We have the same people who are supposed to ensure that the right thing is done, rather protecting the illegal miners. Secondly, many people go into Galamsey as a means of survival. They have no option. Okay, there are no jobs. And as you can see in your report, they say there are no jobs. So if we can provide the safety nets, so young people would have something to do, would have a job to do, I must say that would help to a large extent. Now we are asking them to go home. Do we have jobs for them? What do we expect them to do when they go home? Secondly, we have weapons. I mean, almost every Galamsey site has at least a pump action gun. What happens to these weapons? Are we asking them to go and put it under their pillows, or they might perhaps find other means used for those weapons? So like I always say, this fight is multidimensional, and we need to be scientific. we need to adopt a multi-dimensional approach so it will be sustainable. If you involve the military, look, in the end, you know what would happen? You might be creating a bigger problem because you might have some of them acting beyond what they are supposed to do, including the abuse of rights. You could have some community members picking up arms in an attempt to defend their Galamsey sites because they have nothing to do. You're asking them to go hungry, and the hungry man becomes very desperate. So we need to be careful about the way we approach this. And most importantly, we need to be practical rather than political in addressing this issue.
But from day one, these exercises have been treated as one of, a military operation in nature. We've seen Operation Galamsey, we've seen Operation Hawk 2, and the other interventions that were targeted at halting illegal mining. They've all been military in approach. So the believers just ramp up the numbers, declare state of emergency, and then we could have more boots on ground to contain what it is that these illegal miners are doing.
Sogah, to what end? So with all the involvement of the military, to what end? What can we hit our chest and boast about? Nothing. Can any government official confidently tell us that we've won the fight against Galamsey? I was telling a friend the other day, I was like, rather, Galamsey has pro-maxed. So if we use the military, and you see, the height of incompetence is trying the good old trick over and over again, even though it is failing, anticipating that things will change. Things are not changing. We've involved the military enough. Has it succeeded? No.
Yeah, but what's the alternative here? Adib, what's the alternative here? Particularly if you know that once, we let everything loose, there'll be no enforcement. All we'll do will be the talk shop. That's the end of it, because nothing will get done anyway.
I'm not discounting the importance of the military in the whole scheme of things, okay? The military has a role to play because the carrot and stick approach is something we need to pay attention to. But Sogah, if there's commitment, we wouldn't even need the military. The police is enough to execute this, okay? We need to address the socio-economic and geopolitical deficits that pushes young people into Galamsey pits. There are no jobs. People are done with school. The other day, a gentleman approached me with a master's degree that if I am able to offer him 500 cedis a month, he's willing to work. Okay, so people sometimes go into this.
Adib, I'm sorry I have to cut through. Adib, I'm sorry I have to cut through, but crime is a crime. Why are we not treating it that way?
Okay, the thing is, no well-meaning Ghanaian would rationalize Galamsey. It is an attack on Ghana, because anything that has to do with our water bodies destroyed, and they say water is life, you are trying to drive us into extinction. You are killing us. Anything that touches the pride of the nation, means you should be an enemy of the state. But we need to be practical in our approach, okay? In as much as we need to enforce the law, make sure we arrest the wrongdoers, make sure we make them go through the process. We need to disincentivize Galamsey in the first place. Prevention is the best. Okay, so how do we prevent it? So in as much as we're concerned with ensuring that wrongdoers are dealt with, we should also be dealing with these economic deficits that is pushing people into Galamsey in the first. So we prevent it from even happening in the first place.
Yeah, but when you bring through the conversation on the economy, when you bring through the conversation on the economy, some would argue that look at our economic standing now. There's no way government would have that fiscal space to create more jobs in, say, just a space of 6 months. That's not happening. So the alternative you're talking about, realistically speaking, cannot be delivered as we speak by government. I mean, the facts, the figures back that.
That is mediocrity. It is the responsibility of the state to ensure that the welfare of its citizens is catered for. When you go to other jurisdictions, at this time, the state is doing more for their citizens. But here we are doing more for the state than the state is doing for us. When you go to other jurisdictions, they are cutting down on taxes. Now we are going from one mall to another, locking them up because they are not doing what we expect them to do, so we can realize the revenue mobilization we seek to achieve. Okay, so there's no justification for this. It's the responsibility of the state. That is why you and I, we pay taxes. Okay, so there's no way we can condone this. I mean, inefficiency is inefficiency, and we have to call it.
Yeah, but we have two problems.
But
we have two problems on our hands now. An economic crisis. You also have illegal mining on the rise. Government has got to do something anyway. So the best
absolutely.
option. So the best option is to deploy the military, right?
No. Deploying the military is just a little percentage of the solution to the whole issue. Okay, we need commitment. We need government to address, youth unemployment, not bring unemployment to zero. It is not possible anywhere in the world. Okay, we need to provide certain safety nets within, especially the Galamsey communities, because believe it or not, for many of these communities, their economy is driven by the activities of Galamseyers. Landlords are able to rent out their apartments at exorbitant rates because people have enough cash to pay for it. Restaurants are booming, hotels are booming. So if we ask them to stop, what happens to these economies? What happens to the people who might have been employed through this? I'm not in any way justifying or rationalizing Galamsey,
right.
But we need to be practical in our approach, recognize some of these deficits and deal with it alongside with the hard-fisted approach we're going with.
We need to be wrapping up. I just want to also pick up your thoughts on what the Christian Council is doing today, carrying out their own assessment and trying to get that first-hand experience of what's happening on the grounds. What more can we expect from the Christian Council? Some say, well, this is part of the formalities. In the end, only a statement may come up. What do you see to be that role of religious bodies and religious communities in the fight against illegal mining?
Well, they have a very central role to play because Ghana generally is a conservative society. We attract a great deal of reverence to religion. Sometimes whatever our Malam says or whatever our pastor says is what we do. So when religion comes into this, I'm sure it should be able to help. But it depends on what exactly they'll be doing. Because we know what the issues are. I don't think going around to assess is going to change anything. The issues are there. Everybody knows that commitment is one of the biggest problems or challenges we are faced with so far as countering, this Galamsey menace is concerned. So I think their focus should also be very much on the politicians, so they are able to put pressure on them to commit to ensuring that the right thing is done. So we don't have minister calling the police commander, instructing him to let the Galamseyers go because they are their boys or they are their party boys and all that. We have to, put a stop to these practices. If not, trust me, it's going to be a cycle. The fight would amount to nothing, and that by the time we realize, everything would be gone. Ivory Coast, they are complaining that our water bodies is so dirty, it's affecting their water bodies, and that we need to address it. So Ivory Coast, that is just reeling from a civil war in 2010, 2011, is complaining that well-organized Ghana is not able to manage mining well, and it's affecting their water bodies. I mean, you can imagine, that's a big indictment. So we need to commit more to this fight beyond rhetoric.
And we'll see what then happens after that tour by the Christian Council. Adib Sani is a security analyst joining us here on The Pulse. And you're still on the Joy News channel, still to come on The Pulse. The basis for success in life is hard work and honesty. That's the message from the Ghana Education Service, as over 500,000 candidates prepare to sit their final examinations starting next Monday. We'll get more from the Education Ministry shortly.